In the year 2147, Earth is no stranger to the unknown. After decades of peace, humanity has grown accustomed to the quiet hum of daily life under the bright blue sky. But that tranquility is shattered one fateful day when Earth's communications network picks up an alarming transmission, a warning from the Galactic Council. They are coming. A species unlike any other, the Nicorans, are on their way to Earth. The transmission is brief but urgent. The Nicorans are an advanced alien race, known for their mastery over technology and weaponry. The Council has spoken highly of them, but there is something unsettling in their message. The Nicorans are not just technologically superior, they are afraid. And what they fear most is something as simple as sunlight. The news spreads like wildfire across Earth, creating waves of tension in every corner of the globe. Scientists, politicians, military commanders, everyone is scrambling to prepare for the unknown. What do these aliens want? Why have they come? And why, out of all the things they could fear, are they terrified of the sun? As humanity braces for this first encounter, the world holds its breath. There are no answers, only questions. The anxiety is palpable as Earth's leaders debate the best course of action. Should they prepare for war, or try to make peace? And, most importantly, why are the Nicorans so afraid of the sun? The scene shifts to a desolate desert region, Earth's chosen meeting ground. The government has sent a team of experts to this remote location, away from prying eyes, to make first contact with the Nicorans. The vast, empty expanse of the desert, with its hot, blinding sunlight, seems an ironic choice for a race of aliens terrified of it. But the location is strategic, easy to defend and far from civilization. Suddenly, the calm of the desert is broken by a hum in the air. From the horizon, a massive alien ship begins to descend, sleek and shimmering like liquid metal. The Nicoran vessel glows with an eerie light, reflecting the sun's rays in strange, shimmering patterns. It hovers just above the sand, a perfect technological marvel that seems almost alive in its precision. The ship's surface ripples, almost like a mirage, and its shape seems to change depending on the angle it is viewed from, further adding to its mysterious nature. Human eyes watch in awe and fear from a distance. Earth's military personnel are stationed at various points, with weapons aimed at the sky, ready for anything. The Nicorans are known to be peaceful, but the Earthlings know that the unknown can be dangerous. Every soldier's finger hovers nervously over the trigger, unsure if this will be the beginning of a new era of peaceful cooperation, or a deadly confrontation. The Nicoran ship finally lands, its legs touching the desert floor with a soft thud. It settles gracefully, the dust around it disturbed by the craft's descending thrusters. Immediately, the ship's cloaking system flickers off, and the ship becomes visible in all its glory. The desert sun now shines fully upon it, and yet, despite the heat of the midday sun, the Nicorans do not emerge. There is a silence that stretches for minutes, tense and unnerving. When the hatch of the ship opens, the first of the Nicorans steps out. They are tall, graceful, and strikingly beautiful, with pale, almost translucent skin. Their eyes are large and almond-shaped, shimmering with intelligence, and their movements are fluid, like those of a predator. They are covered in ornate armor, clearly designed for protection, yet it is what they do next that catches the human observers off guard. As soon as they emerge from the safety of their ship, the Nicorans immediately begin to shield themselves from the light. They pull cloaks over their heads and step behind the protective barriers of their ship, their faces hidden from the glaring sun. Some of them crouch low to the ground, almost like they're trying to burrow into the earth itself, as if the sun itself is a weapon they cannot withstand. Jack, the leader of the human team, observes this from the distance, his brow furrowed in confusion. He is a seasoned scientist and an expert in alien biology, but this is unlike anything he has encountered. The Nicorans are a technologically advanced race, capable of incredible feats of engineering. And yet, they are so frightened of something as simple as sunlight. He watches as the Nicorans' actions unfold before him, and he can't help but feel a strange sense of intrigue. Their behavior is unlike anything he's ever seen. Humans have often been faced with the unknown, but never with such a stark display of vulnerability from an alien species. Their fear is so intense, so all-encompassing, that it is almost palpable. Jack can feel the weight of it in the air. The team is silent, each member exchanging uncertain glances. The Nicorans, once thought to be the ultimate predators of the galaxy, now seem fragile, even broken. The idea that these beings, so seemingly perfect in their technological advancements, are afraid of the most basic force in the universe, a star, is both baffling and intriguing. Jack's mind races with questions. What has happened to the Nicorans? What makes them fear sunlight? And what does this fear mean for humanity's future? He steps forward, determined to find the answers. His heart beats a little faster as he thinks about the responsibility now placed on his shoulders. The entire world is watching this first contact. The weight of that responsibility, combined with the mystery of the Nicorans, makes his nerves flare. As Jack walks toward the group of Nicorans, he is greeted by their leader, Lara, a tall and striking figure with shimmering silver hair and eyes that gleam like the stars. Her gaze, though captivating, is full of uncertainty as she speaks to Jack through a translator device. We are not accustomed to the light. Lara's voice is soft, almost fragile, as if speaking about it causes her physical pain. It is dangerous to us. Jack listens intently, his scientist mind piecing together the puzzle. I see, he responds carefully. But why? What happened to your people? Lara does not answer immediately. She seems to hesitate, as if the question strikes a chord within her. The tension is thick between them, and Jack knows that he is about to learn something crucial about the Nicorans, something that could change everything. The sun beats down on the barren desert, casting long shadows across the sand. The Nicorans, still hidden under their cloaks, look like shadows themselves, beautiful yet fragile, shrouded in mystery. The way they shield themselves from the light creates an eerie, almost surreal visual, beings of light and beauty trapped in the darkness, unable to embrace the warmth of the sun that the humans take for granted. The stark contrast between Jack's confident, sun-baked form and their terrified, cloaked figures highlights the mystery of their race, adding layers of intrigue to this first encounter. Jack stares at Lara, his mind buzzing with questions. There is something more here, something deeper, something that goes beyond the Nicorans' fear of sunlight. And Jack, determined to uncover the truth, knows that this will be the first of many difficult and dangerous questions he will have to face as they continue their encounter with the Nicorans. The desert heat beats down relentlessly as Jack stands in front of Lara, the Nicoran ambassador, trying to persuade her to experience something humans take for granted, the warmth of the sun. It's a simple idea, yet to the Nicorans, it's a concept almost as alien as the humans themselves. The light, the energy that fuels the very planet, is something they cannot fathom, let alone embrace. Jack, with his curiosity piqued, decides to break the ice in the most human way possible, by offering a gift of warmth. Why do you hide from the sun? Jack asks, his voice light, teasing. We humans love the sun. It's how we get our energy and joy. It's not as bad as you think. Lara, standing at the entrance of the shaded dome where the Nicorans have sought refuge, laughs nervously, her pale features flickering under the shadows. She looks at Jack with a mixture of curiosity and hesitation. You don't understand, she replies softly, her eyes filled with unease. The sun, it burns us. It weakens us. Her voice falters as she speaks of her people's fear, and Jack can feel the weight of their vulnerability. Still, he's determined to show her that not all dangers are as terrifying as they seem. It's not dangerous, Jack insists, grinning. It's just different. You'll see. Just a minute outside in the sunlight won't hurt you. I'll show you. Lara's eyes narrow as she contemplates his words. Her people have lived in the shadows for so long that the thought of stepping into the sun feels like walking into an enemy's lair. But Jack is persuasive, and there's something about the way he speaks with such confidence that makes her wonder if maybe, just maybe, humans are right. Reluctantly, Lara steps out of the dome, but only just past its threshold. The sunlight touches her skin for the first time, and immediately, a shudder runs through her body. Her skin begins to glow faintly, a warning sign of the intense discomfort she's experiencing. She freezes, her face contorting in pain as the sun burns her delicate skin. The moment is fragile, and the tension between them is palpable. The Nicorans, observing from a distance, watch in silence, their faces filled with concern and disbelief. They had warned her against it, but Lara, the bravest of their kind, had stepped out despite their fears. And now, they wait, unsure whether this act of bravery will result in triumph or disaster. Jack's heart races as he watches Lara recoil, her eyes wide with shock. He had hoped it wouldn't be so painful for her, but it seems the sun is an enemy they can never escape. Her fragile body flinches, and she starts to retreat, looking back toward the safety of the dome. But Jack isn't ready to give up. He's seen the human connection to sunlight, how it revitalizes, how it brings clarity and health. He activates a small device at his belt, a high-tech cloak that shimmers with energy. The cloak, designed specifically for this kind of situation, creates a protective barrier between Lara and the harsh rays of the sun. "Hold on!" Jack shouts as he quickly moves toward her. In seconds, he drapes the cloak around Lara's body, and a soft, glowing shield surrounds her. It's as if the sun is now nothing more than a harmless whisper against the powerful technology of humanity. Lara stands still, feeling the energy of the shield wrap around her like a comforting embrace. The sun no longer burns her. Instead, the warmth feels almost pleasant, though she's still hesitant, unsure of how to process it. Jack, with a grin on his face, watches her reaction. "See? Not so bad, right?" he says, his voice full of excitement. "Humans use the sun for health, to recharge. We call it sunbathing, and it's one of the most relaxing things we do." Lara looks at him, still skeptical but undeniably curious. The shield around her begins to hum softly, its technology absorbing the sun's rays and turning them into a mild, soothing warmth. She feels something she's never felt before, comfort in the light. The Nicorans have been born into shadows, but here, in the light of the sun, Lara is beginning to see a different reality. As Lara stands there, still getting used to the sensation of the sun against her skin, a sudden gust of wind sweeps across the desert. Sand begins to swirl around them, and the shield around Lara's body flickers momentarily. The wind is strong, and for a brief moment, the shield's energy seems to struggle against the harsh environment. Jack watches intently, his instincts kicking in. "Hold on!" he calls out, activating another device that strengthens the shield. The wind howls louder, but the cloak's energy field stabilizes, keeping Lara safe from both the sunlight and the surrounding chaos. The sandstorm, though fierce, is now no match for the technology Jack has activated. Lara, stunned by the sudden rush of events, watches the shield in awe. "This technology, it's incredible," she murmurs, her eyes widening with admiration. She never imagined such protection could exist. For a moment, she forgets the pain, the fear, and the uncertainty, focusing instead on the new sensation of safety in the light. The wind dies down just as quickly as it came, and the desert is once again calm. Jack, always the optimist, smiles at Lara's amazed expression. "This is just a glimpse of what the sun can do," he says, his voice light and playful. "It doesn't have to hurt. It can be a friend. A partner in your journey." Lara, now standing fully under the sunlight with the shield around her, allows herself to relax. The tension in her body eases, and for the first time, she feels a spark of joy. It's a small moment, a brief connection to something she had feared, but it's enough to plant a seed of curiosity about humanity's relationship with the sun. As the sun sets in the distance, the glowing orb reflecting off the shimmering cloak creates a surreal, almost cinematic effect. The contrast between the harsh desert sun and the Nicoran's fragile forms is striking. The high-tech cloak hums softly, its light contrasting against the deepening shadows of the desert, creating a visual spectacle. It's a moment of triumph and wonder, as Jack and Lara stand in the golden light, the desert stretching out before them like an endless world of possibility. Jack's eyes meet Lara's, and for the first time, they share an understanding, a bond forged in the light, something that transcends their differences. The moment is fleeting, but the memory of it will linger, a symbol of hope and trust between two very different species. Over the course of several days, something remarkable begins to happen. What started as a mere experiment in defiance of the Nicoran's ancient fears slowly transforms into a journey of healing and self-discovery. Every day, Lara steps outside, the sun glimmering down on her shielded form. At first, she only dares to stay in the sunlight for a few moments, still tense and unsure. But Jack is patient, and with each passing day, he encourages her to stay a little longer. His faith in her is unwavering. Lara's initial terror begins to fade, replaced by something more profound, a sense of curiosity, then peace. The warmth of the sun, once an enemy, now feels like a gentle embrace. Lara starts to understand that the sun doesn't burn her. It gives her something her people have never known: comfort, energy, and most surprisingly, joy. Jack watches this transformation with quiet pride. It's not just Lara who is learning to trust the sun. In a way, he is learning too. He's learning that the bond between them, this strange, fragile alliance, can overcome even the deepest fears. The tension that once lingered between them starts to dissolve, replaced by mutual understanding. For the first time, Jack sees Lara's eyes filled with a kind of peace that's rare for someone who has lived in constant fear. One evening, as the sun dips below the horizon, casting a soft orange glow over the desert, Jack and Lara sit together. Lara's shield is down for the first time, and she allows the sun to touch her unprotected skin. The warmth on her face is comforting, and she closes her eyes, a small smile forming as she feels the rays soak into her skin. The light has become her friend. The fear is no longer in control. But as Jack watches her, something deep within him stirs, a memory, a loss. He turns to her, the smile on his face fading slightly, replaced by a more somber expression. "You know," Jack begins, his voice quiet, "humans have had their own struggles. We're not always as strong as we seem." Lara looks at him, her eyes full of curiosity. She knows Jack is not like the others, he's different, more open, more willing to share. It's one of the reasons she has come to trust him. He's not a warrior or a diplomat. He's a scientist, a thinker, and that has always made him stand apart. Jack takes a deep breath, his eyes distant as he recalls a memory long buried. "I had a brother, Bonner," he says, his voice thick with emotion. "He was the strongest person I knew. He fought in a war against an alien warlord who had a whole fleet of ships, and in the end, he didn't make it." There's a long pause as Jack struggles to keep his emotions in check. It's clear he's still grieving, even after all this time. "I don't talk about him much, but I think about him every day. He died protecting people he didn't even know. His last words were, 'Keep fighting.' And I've tried to live by that, to keep going, even when everything feels impossible." Lara is silent for a long moment. Her heart aches for Jack, for the pain he carries. She knows what it's like to lose someone. Her people have lost so much over the centuries. But her own losses are nothing compared to what Jack has endured. Still, there's something in his words, something that makes her feel less alone. "I'm sorry," Lara says softly. "I didn't know." She reaches out, her hand resting on his arm. It's a simple gesture, but it speaks volumes. She's offering her sympathy, her understanding. Jack nods, grateful for her kindness. But then, his gaze shifts, and he looks at her in a new way. "You're starting to trust the sun now, aren't you?" he asks, his voice gentle. Lara nods, a small but genuine smile on her lips. I think so. It's not as scary as I thought it would be. Maybe my people were wrong all along. Maybe the sun isn't something to fear. Maybe it's something we can learn to love. Her words hang in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Jack watches as Lara slowly, almost hesitantly, closes her eyes and tilts her head back, fully embracing the sunlight. The last vestiges of fear fade from her face, replaced by something brighter, something more hopeful. The sunlight seems to envelop her, turning her skin into a glowing canvas of warmth. As Lara stands there, bathed in sunlight, she feels something change within her, a deep, personal shift. The shadows of her past no longer seem as suffocating. She begins to understand that the Nicorans' fear of the sun was not just physical, it was cultural, an ancient part of their heritage that had held them back for centuries. It was a curse, passed down through generations, but now, it feels like it might finally be breaking. Jack's belief in her and the sun's gentle warmth are both acts of healing. Lara looks at Jack, her face now radiant, and says, "You were right. It's not so bad. The sun, it feels like freedom. Like something my people need but never understood." Jack smiles at her, the bond between them now deeper than ever. It's not just about teaching someone to love the sun. It's about helping someone find a new way of thinking, a new perspective. And in turn, it's about understanding one another, humans and Nicorans, two species from different worlds, learning to share something as universal as sunlight. The imagery around them shifts as well. The soft, golden light of the setting sun dances on Lara's skin, a reflection of the transformation she's undergone. The desert, once a place of fear and uncertainty, now feels like a place of peace, a place of rebirth. Lara's face is serene, glowing with the warmth of the sun, her once fragile form now standing tall, filled with newfound strength. The moment is powerful. It's a symbol of Lara's personal victory, a triumph over her past fears. The visuals convey this beautifully, capturing the radiance of her transformation, while Jack watches her, proud and hopeful for what lies ahead. Lara stood, basking in the warmth of the sun, feeling the last of her fears melt away as she embraced the light. For the first time in her life, she truly understood the joy of the earth's sunlight. It was a gift, a freedom her people had never known. Jack stood beside her, watching her transformation with quiet pride, and for a moment, everything seemed perfect. The battle with her past was over, and she was winning. They were winning. But just as the sun seemed to shine brightest, a sudden, violent shift occurred. A harsh, mechanical hum vibrated through the air, sending a ripple of unease through the desert. Jack froze, his senses immediately alert. His eyes scanned the sky as a deep roar echoed across the horizon. "What is that?" Lara whispered, her eyes wide with sudden panic. She could feel the atmosphere changing, a growing sense of dread swirling around them. Before Jack could respond, the sky above them split open with a flash of blinding light. It was as if the heavens themselves had been torn apart. Orbital bombardment. Laser beams rained down, piercing the atmosphere and causing shockwaves that rattled the ground beneath their feet. The once peaceful desert landscape was engulfed in chaos, as plumes of smoke and debris erupted into the air. The first strike was devastating. The Nicoran ship, which had been their sanctuary and symbol of hope, exploded in a brilliant fireball, its sleek form disintegrating in the intense heat. Jack's heart sank as he realized that the peaceful moment they had shared was now shattered. The attackers had come for them. And they had arrived in force. The enemy had struck with ruthless precision. The Zalthar Legion, a brutal military faction that had long harbored animosity towards the Nicorans, was here, and their mission was clear: wipe out every last Nicoran, and every human who stood with them. Earth's response was swift, but it wasn't enough. The Zalthar Legion's technology was vastly superior: advanced weapons, force fields, and ships that could obliterate anything in their path. Earth's forces, while well prepared, were outmatched in terms of raw firepower. But humanity had something the Zalthar didn't: a relentless will to survive. The human military, led by Jack and a small team of elite soldiers, fought back with everything they had. Cloaking devices flickered to life, hiding soldiers from view as they moved through the chaos. High-tech robots deployed, their metal frames slicing through the air, firing rapid bursts of energy that lit up the darkened sky. The Zalthar forces, massive and intimidating, advanced in waves, their warships hovering ominously overhead. But the humans weren't backing down. Jack, Lara, and the team of soldiers launched a counteroffensive, knowing they couldn't match the Zalthar's strength but determined to do whatever it took to protect their world. The battlefield became a blur of motion. Cloaked figures darted through explosions, moving like shadows in the smoke-filled chaos. Laser blasts streaked across the sky, lighting up the dark clouds above them. Each blast was a battle cry, a reminder that humanity was ready to fight for their survival. Lara, still learning to trust Earth's sun, now had to trust in her own strength, and in the people around her. Amid the devastation, Jack and Lara found themselves at the center of the action. Jack, using his deep knowledge of military technology, took charge, directing his team with precision and speed. He activated cloaking devices to confuse the enemy, setting up traps and ambushes. Lara, despite her earlier fear, now stood at his side, using her own alien abilities to shield their team from the Zalthar's deadly weapons. The battle raged on, a chaotic storm of fire, dust, and blood. At one point, Jack and Lara found themselves cornered by a group of Zalthar soldiers. The enemy's firepower was overwhelming, and the odds seemed stacked against them. Just as one of the Zalthar soldiers aimed a deadly plasma rifle at Lara, Jack acted instinctively. He pushed her out of the line of fire, taking the full brunt of the blast himself. The explosion rocked him off his feet, throwing him to the ground. Lara screamed in shock, rushing to his side. Blood stained his uniform, and for a moment, she feared the worst. But Jack's eyes met hers, and despite the pain, there was a faint smile on his lips. "I'm fine," he said weakly, though his voice was strained. "You're safe, that's all that matters." Lara's heart pounded in her chest. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions. The explosion had knocked the wind out of her, but the real impact was Jack's sacrifice. In that moment, she realized how much he truly cared for her, not just as an ambassador of her species, but as a person, as someone worth protecting. The tension of the moment was palpable. Lara's hands trembled as she helped Jack to his feet, and the light from the battle's explosions reflected in her eyes. She saw the sacrifice he made for her, the risks he had taken to ensure her safety. Her own fears melted away in the face of this raw, human emotion. This was not just a fight for survival, it was a fight for something far greater, a fight for each other. The visuals were stunning, capturing the beauty and chaos of the battlefield in equal measure. The golden glow of the sun fought against the harsh, artificial lights of the Zalthar's weapons. The contrast between the soft warmth of the light and the cold, metallic fury of the battle created a stunning juxtaposition, humans, fragile yet resilient, standing against an unstoppable force. Jack and Lara, their bond now stronger than ever, fought side by side, determined to survive. As they ducked behind cover, narrowly avoiding another blast, Lara locked eyes with Jack again. In that brief moment, she understood. The sun was not just a force of nature, it was a symbol of everything they were fighting for: hope, resilience, and the belief that even in the darkest times, light could still prevail. The battle raged on, a storm of fire and chaos in the air, as the final confrontation between Earth's soldiers and the Zalthar Legion unfolded. The skies above were filled with the brilliant light of orbital lasers and explosions, while the ground below shook with the violent clash of advanced military forces. Jack stood at the forefront, leading the charge, with Lara by his side. This was it. The moment of truth. Lara, now fully embracing the power of Earth's sun, had transformed before Jack's eyes. The fear that once held her back had melted away. She was no longer the alien ambassador who hid from the sunlight. With the warmth of the sun on her skin, she had unlocked a new power within herself. The bond she shared with Jack, the trust and strength they had built together, had given her the courage to fight not only for herself but for everyone she cared about. The emotional strength they shared fueled her alien abilities, combining them with the force of the sun and the resilience of humanity's will to survive. The Zalthar Legion, ruthless and determined to crush everything in their path, were a formidable enemy. But the humans, despite their technological disadvantage, had something the Zalthar didn't: heart. They fought with every ounce of their being, refusing to give up. In the heart of the battle, Jack and Lara fought side by side, moving like a well-coordinated team. Jack led the soldiers with military precision, directing them to key targets while Lara used her newfound powers to take down the Zalthar forces. Energy blasts shot from her hands, disintegrating enemy war machines, while Jack's team of cloaked soldiers infiltrated enemy lines, striking quickly and decisively. But the battle came at a personal cost. In the midst of the chaos, Jack's old soldier friend, Bonner, was struck by a blast, falling to the ground in a pool of blood. Jack's heart sank as he rushed to his friend's side, his mind reeling with grief. Bonner had been like a brother to him, fighting by his side through countless battles. Now, as Bonner's life slipped away, Jack felt the weight of loss pressing down on him. But he didn't have time to mourn. Not yet. Bonner's last words, weak and strained, were a final plea for Jack to continue the fight, for Lara, for Earth, and for the future they all hoped to build. Through the pain, Jack felt a surge of determination. He couldn't let Bonner's death be in vain. With a final nod to his fallen comrade, Jack wiped the tears from his eyes and stood tall, ready to lead the charge. With the loss of Bonner weighing heavily on him, Jack's grief fueled his resolve. He fought harder than ever before, driven by the memory of his friend, who had died protecting the ones he loved. But his grief also brought him closer to Lara. She saw the pain in Jack's eyes as he stood, bloodied and battered, but still standing strong. In that moment, Lara realized just how much Jack had sacrificed, not only for her but for humanity. Jack's actions had taught her what true strength was. She wasn't alone anymore. She had found something worth fighting for, something far greater than her fears or the dark legacy of her people. And now, she would fight for it, too. Lara's powers flared with intensity as she channeled the strength of the sun and the memory of Bonner's sacrifice. She unleashed a torrent of energy, sending waves of destruction through the Zalthar Legion's ranks. Her attacks were swift and precise, as she leveled entire squads of enemies, her movements fluid and full of purpose. The final showdown was fierce. The Zalthar forces were overwhelming, but the combined strength of Jack and Lara, now united in purpose, was unstoppable. The ground shook as explosions rocked the battlefield, and the sky above lit up with laser blasts and energy weapons. Jack fought like a man possessed, his mind focused only on victory, his body pushing beyond its limits. Lara, glowing with the light of the sun, fought like a warrior reborn. As the last of the Zalthar forces crumbled, the battlefield fell silent. The victory had come at a heavy price, but it was theirs. The Zalthar Legion had been defeated. Earth had won. The final confrontation was nothing short of cinematic. Explosions lit up the night sky, casting an eerie glow on the destruction below. The orbital lasers of the Zalthar forces carved through space like bright, deadly trails, but humanity fought back with everything they had. The contrast between the bright, fiery destruction in the sky and the soft, golden warmth of the sun reflected the emotional stakes of the battle. The darkness of war and loss was balanced by the light of hope and courage. Jack led the charge, his face a mask of determination as he moved through the chaos. Lara, now fully embracing the power of the sun, stood tall beside him, her energy crackling with the raw force of nature. Together, they were unstoppable. As the final Zalthar ships were destroyed, the battle finally ended. The world fell into a tense, breathless quiet. The dust settled, and the sun began to rise over the horizon, casting a new light on the world they had saved. With the Zalthar Legion defeated, Earth began to heal. The victory was bittersweet, many lives had been lost, including Bonner's, but it was a victory nonetheless. The humans and Nicorans, once enemies, now stood together as allies, united in their fight for a better future. Lara, now standing confidently in the sunlight, turned to Jack, her eyes filled with gratitude. She had come so far since that first day she stepped into the light, afraid of the sun and uncertain of her place in the world. But now, she had found her strength, and it was a strength she would share with the humans she had come to care for. "Thank you, Jack," she said softly, her voice full of emotion. "You showed me that the light isn't just dangerous. It's life." Jack smiled, his heart heavy with both grief and hope. "No, Lara. It's not just life. It's the future." As the sun rose over the horizon, Jack and Lara stood together, looking out over a peaceful Earth. The humans and Nicorans, once divided by fear and mistrust, now stood united, ready to fight for a better tomorrow.